You're listening to In Cap We Trust for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANYPodcast or on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In Cap We Trust here at the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. I am your host, Shane. I am joined by Rob. Rob, sir, how are you?
I'm doing great. I got a rise out of our favorite Twitter personality, Miss Nasty, today.
Oh,
she sent me a snap. She's at Starbucks and she's doing some work or something like that. And I couldn't help but notice this hideous coffee mug that had a whole bunch of Braves logos plastered all over it. So I told her how hideous that coffee mug was, and she told me to be nice.
Oh, my God.
So I got a rise out of her, so I'm doing pretty well.
All right, well done. She want to write for us?
I don't know. She wouldn't have anything positive to say about Philly sports, but then again, neither do we.
Neither do we. But she doesn't seem to have loyalty literally anywhere in life. Sports-wise, I should say. I don't know anything else about her at all. But she seems to be representing 15 different cities for 15 different sports.
That's fair enough.
Honestly, quite concerning.
So, Miss Nasty, if you're listening to this,
can't imagine she would.
We hope that you are, but can't imagine that you are. Let us know if you want to start writing for us.
And on that note, we are, first of all, over the last roughly 90 days or so, we have seen a significant jump and rise in our subscriptions, our followers, our downloads and plays for the podcast. So thank you guys. We appreciate that. I think when me, Elle, and Steve started this thing, I don't think we ever envisioned on expanding this team. And for our original 3.5 listeners who were, we were 3 and occasionally we got someone else to listen to us every other week. It really didn't seem like it was going to get to this point, and here we are now, and we're looking to expand. So as we jokingly sit here and suggest that that Nasty should be writing for us, we don't actually mean that, because there is nothing she could positively say about the Philadelphia Phillies. Not that we can either. But if you have any interest in writing for AMYP, we are currently looking. So we are currently taking writers for Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles, MMA, golf if you want to, soccer, whatever you want to write about, sports-related, Philadelphia primarily. Again, unless it's just something like golf or boxing, things like that. Give us a shout. So you can DM us. It's at AMY Podcast. You can also DM me. It's at Shane_Mead. And then you can also email us, since Twitter is currently down right now because it's a reliable website apparently. But you can email the team. It is amypodcastteam@gmail.com. So basically the way it'll work is if you write articles for us, we will sit there, we'll edit them, we'll publish them, we'll get them all up and everything. And if you write something interesting enough, we'll bring you on show and we'll interview you about it. That's basically how we get all of our guests. All of the guests on show, we sit here and they write something interesting, or on their pod they say something interesting, and we're like, shit, we want to talk to these people. So that's basically how it's going to work. Rob, anyone come to mind for you right now? Thinking, new writers outside of Nasty?
I'm kind of sifting through some names right now. Nothing's really caught my eye yet, but with that being said, there's plenty of opportunity out there. So if you're listening to this, go ahead and hit us up because we're looking for writers.
Plenty of opportunity. And the only thing that we require you, outside of being somewhat competent with words, is that you go and buy food from Just Food. That's right, Just Food, our sponsor, 215-794-3663. That's 215-794-FOOD. Treat yourself, take it home. Delicious foods. They have an in-store location in Bucks County, PA. It's in Buckingham Green Shopping Center. Ask for Rob, Asian Rob, not Podcast Rob. I name all of my friends, by the way, outside of just their name. So he is Asian Rob to me. I think you guys probably shouldn't refer to him as that on first time meeting, but if you do, he'll know that I sent you. So let him know that Shane from AMYP or Rob from AMYP has sent you. Again, that is Just Food, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. This is an In Cap We Trust segment. This is a Phillies segment. We've gone about 10 days, Rob, since our last, roughly.
About that, yeah. It was right after the 4-game sweep of the Mets.
Yeah,
so we were on a positive note then, and not so much rest, now.
Yeah, and that happened. So now here we are over All-Star break. Now, we were going to take this week off from podcasting for the Phillies anyway. We were just going to kind of decompress. The entire team outside of Real Muto by default was off. We were going to take this week off. So I was going to write an article. So I wrote an article 3 times over, and each time more negative than the last. I couldn't find the right words to sit there and describe anything that was worth actually reading without wanting to just jump off to Ben Franklin. And I realized I'm not actually that angry. It's just the more that I put in this tone, the more that it just sounds like I myself am 1 foot off the Ben Franklin. So we are going to do a podcast now instead. So this is basically a free conversation about where our thoughts are for our Philadelphia Phillies, our Phillies who spent $500 million fucking dollars in free agency in the offseason and coupled that talent with their homegrown talent like Kingery, Hoskins, Nola, and we didn't think that we would be here. We didn't think that we would be half a game out of second place, let alone 6.5 out of first in the NL East. We thought that we were for sure one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NL, and that has not been the case. So what's been the most frustrating thing for you so far? Let's just start with therapy session. Just the inconsistency all around. The starting pitching has been inconsistent. It's been bad of late. Aaron Nola's been really good of late after a bad start to the season, but everybody else, some guys started off well and they're not pitching well right now. Arrieta's been terrible. He's like Kapler said, throwing at 85% because of bone spurs in his elbow right now. Zach Eflin has taken a bit of the dip after a solid start. Pavetta's been up and down. You don't know what to expect from Pavetta every time he steps on the mound. We've had Vince Velasquez starting the season in the rotation, going to the bullpen, now back in the rotation, and he's just been bad wherever he's been pitching. And offensively, Bryce Harper going through that big slump. Rhys Hoskins, he's had a solid season, but he's kind of been in and out at certain points. JT Real Muto has been streaky. Cesar Hernandez has been streaky. Maikel Franco apparently only hits against the Mets. So there's just... And for 1 6-week stretch every season. Yes. And Gene Segura, who started off hitting 350 through the middle of May, is suddenly hitting 270 right now. So it's just so much inconsistency, both offensively and pitching-wise. And the team's so talented that they should be doing so much better than they are right now. They should be neck and neck with the Braves for first place, not chasing the Nationals for second place. Bryce Harper, the team that lost Bryce Harper in the offseason, to us, is ahead of us by a half game at the All-Star break. Yeah, it was a bad time for the Phillies to go as cold as they did, as the Nats got white hot. I think they were, 26-10, 26-11 in their last 30-some games. Including a 3-game sweep with the rain out included? 3 with a rain out. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that it's an impossible season to sit here and put an accurate pulse, to have an accurate pulse on who and what the identity of this Philadelphia Phillies team is. Anyone who says that they've figured it out, they're fucking lying or in some sort of denial. It's impossible. You take a look at the vast... There are so many different circumstances right now that are surrounding why this team is a middle-of-the-road team. And that's kind of being generous by stating it in that particular way. This team has had to deal with everyone not named Hector Neris has died in the bullpen. That's impossible to me. Those who have now come back outside of Tommy Hunter, who I fucking love, is the anti-Neshek. They're not good. And these are names that were shut down guys last year or throughout periods of their career. Andrew McCutchen, we state this all the time. The organization prioritized durability and availability when going after McCutchen versus Brantley. Brantley, naturally, was an all-star starter for the AL over there. And Andrew McCutchen never gets hurt. freak injury, tears his ACL.
By the way, probably would have been an all-star if he stayed healthy, the way
I think
that he
so.
was playing.
Yeah, I think so. And he's a more likable and I don't want to say respect, that's the wrong way. He's certainly more likable and well received throughout all of baseball. He's got that kind of personality that follows him versus Bryce Harper, who, players around the league don't like, other fan bases loathe. He is the villain everywhere that he steps into outside of CBP, and that is just not the same for Andrew McCutchen. So while they were probably going to end up putting fairly similar numbers up had Kutch stayed through this stretch and not gotten hurt, Andrew McCutchen undoubtedly, I think, would have been the Phillies representative in the All-Star weekend, All-Star break events. But those types of Odubel Herrera being a jackass, allegedly, and in those circumstances, hand down, so many different things happen that you can't prepare for. It's impossible. So you just kind of ride these hot stretches and hope to God that these poor periods just don't last very long. I don't think that the Phillies have an identity this year. I think that they have, at this point, a coaching staff that is underwhelming. I'm not including Gabe Kapler in that, but I understand those who do. But I think that when you look at the pitching staff, they've been atrocious and perhaps made the incorrect decision by, protecting Chris Young and keeping him. One of the High Hopes pod talked about that. I don't know if you listened this week. But Kranitz over there in Atlanta, everyone's fucking great. And here we are in Philadelphia, and we are garbage in the rotation and the bullpen. So maybe they made the incorrect decision there. John Malley, that guy, he is so not well received anywhere that he is.
We all know how I feel about him.
We do know how you feel. So that coach's room, not great right now. The players as a whole, you spoke about it. Everyone is streaky or flat out underperformed this year. There's no rhyme or reason for most of these things. There's no way to diagnose what's going on, and that makes this season fucking maddening. You turn on the television, you don't know if you're getting a 9-inning shutout from Nick Pivetta or if you're getting Zach Eflin giving up 4 runs in the first inning after we score 4 runs.
4 runs against Soroka, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball this year.
He's disgusting.
Yeah, 4 runs in the first inning against him. And then Zach Eflin pisses away the 4 runs within the first 2 innings and then gives up 3 more in the 3rd inning. He chooses the worst possible time to have his worst outing this season. All he needed to do was be average. All he needed to do was go out there and give us 6 innings, a 3-run ball, and we would have won that game.
So I was stating with some of my other friends that he's essentially Clay Buchholz.
More or less, yeah.
You were going to get 6, 7, 8 phenomenal starts. And Eflin, look, he is, when he's on, he is one of the most economical pitchers in the game, and he has the ability to go 9 every time he takes the baseball. He has that kind of stuff, that pitch to contact stuff, and he creates weak contact when he's on. So you're going to get 7, 8, 9 really, really, really good starts. Then you're going to get 7, 8, 9 complete dog shit starts because he's not a good fucking pitcher. He just isn't. When he is so black or white. He is either very, very on or very, very not. And then you're going to get a bunch of middle of the road stuff for him that really he isn't necessarily middle of the road. The offense kind of picks him up. So even if he goes 5 innings and gives up 5 runs, which is not a good fucking outing, he may get that win. He may keep you technically in that ball game. But he's a fucking maddening pitcher, man. I hate Zach Eflin. I know everyone else loves him, but I can't stand that guy.
I wouldn't say that he's a bad pitcher. It's just that there's no middle ground with him. There's no average start. There's no, like I said, 6 innings of 3 runs. It's either he's going 7, 8, maybe even throwing a complete game like he did a couple times earlier this year, where he's given up maybe 1 run. And then the other starts, he's like he was in Atlanta, going less than 3 innings, giving up 7 runs. There's no middle ground. There's no average with him. It's either really good or really bad.
Yeah, he is a maddening person to have on the mound. And can we talk about for a second the fact that the Phillies have not had a competent 5-man? They have not had more than 1 actual major league pitcher at any given fucking time all year this year. So they went through streaks where Zach Eflin, for a lot of the season, for as much as I dislike him, he was hands down the Phillies' best pitcher. He was pitching to a 2.83 ERA through 14 or 11 starts,
something like that.
Something like that, whatever it was. No arguments. You know, he had a couple sporadic starts in there. You know, there was a 3-week or 3-start stretch where he wasn't that great. And during that 3-week stretch, it was Eichhoff who came in and was, for his first 3 or 4 starts, the Phillies' best pitcher. And then he died. Aaron Nola started the year like shit. Now he's our only pitcher. Jake Arrieta is the only one right now who has not at any point been like the guy for a string of starts. Nick Pivetta, even when he came back from being sent down, his first 3 or 4 starts, really good, including that complete game. But never throughout 70 some games. How many games are we at right now?
Like 85.
85.
Somewhere in the mid 80s.
All right, so through 80 some games this year, you want to tell me that the rotation has not been able to put together 2 fucking starting pitchers throughout a stretch of time that can kind of carry you? We've had to always rely on like that streak stopper, that stump. Like, get the hell out of here. You know how bad that looks on the rotation or on the front office?
It's so bad. And they had so many chances to go out and get different pitchers at certain points, and they didn't pull the trigger on any of them. I mean, look at Keuchel. They could have gone out and gotten him.
Well, Keuchel does suck, but
Keuchel does not suck.
He does suck.
Keuchel is an above-average pitcher.
He is not.
He might not be worth the money that Atlanta's going to pay him, but he's an above-average pitcher.
I mean, I'd rather have him than Vince Velasquez. Like, I won't say that.
So yeah, why would the Phillies want to pass on him then?
The Phillies.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Nothing that the front office has done to me, when talking about pitching specifically, has made any fucking sense whatsoever. I sit there and I look at it, and you got last offseason, or last trade deadline, excuse me. You know what? For a long period of time, our entire rotation was holding us together. They were all pitching above their heads. There were periods of time where Pivetta looked great. There were periods of time where even Velasquez looked great. There was a period of time, well, I mean, obviously Nola was Nola all year. But they just chose to sit there and say, yeah, we trust this right now, and not get even one. Not even one. They got a bunch of rental fucking utility guys. Drupal Cabrera is out there. And, like, that was what they decided to do. Wilson Ramos, like that one. Granted, both of those were very good deals in theory. They just didn't work out. But then you get to an offseason where you spend $500 million on offense. And you say, let's see what the rotation can do. Well, the rotation has shown you they can't put together 33 starts. There's no one outside of Aaron Nola who I would trust for 33 starts a season that we currently have out there. And I love Nick Pivetta. I wouldn't trust him. For 33 starts, you can't. And the fact that we can all see that is maddening to me, that the front office willingly walked into this season with that rotation.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's so frustrating, the fact that they just completely overlooked it in the offseason.
Yep.
I mean, you can spend as much money as you want on bats, but that's only half the game. You can score as many runs as you want, but if you don't have pitching, you're not going to win.
I mean, let's not pretend like their very obvious identity plan through the first half of the season, through the deadline, was going to be, we just need to score more runs than the other team. Even if we're winning games 9-7, it doesn't matter. They were banking on an offense that featured a former MVP in left field, Andrew McCutchen. They were banking on a guy who has always flashed the potential to be a plus 300 hitter with a developed power tool in Odubel Herrera out in center field. Obviously, Bryce Harper. They were banking on over 300 from Gene Segura and to potentially lead the league in hits. They were banking on so many things right now that just haven't worked out. And I think that what they wanted to do, or at least this is how it comes across to me, is invest the $500 million a year on JT Realmuto. He's like the least sexiest name that I don't understand why I always forget Realmuto. But they go ahead and they acquire and obtain all these different offensive talents, right? That's awesome. And I genuinely believe that they were hoping to God that they were just within the conversation and just let the offense carry you to justify shipping out a prospect-heavy package to sit there and obtain or acquire one of the game's top-of-the-line available pitchers at the deadline. They're not that way now. And, like, the deadline, we'll talk about the deadline in a minute, I'm sure, but, like, I don't know that it makes any fucking sense whatsoever to buy if you're the Phillies. Not now.
No, if I'm the Phillies, I'm standing pat. I'm not a seller because there is a very realistic chance to win in the immediate, not the immediate, but like as in next year, there's a very realistic chance to go out and win. But I think you I don't want to see right off the season because the Phillies are still in that second wild card spot. There's still potential for them to make a run in the second half of the season. But they're just not in a position to go contend for a World Series this year. So I wouldn't be a seller because I want to keep a lot of the guys around to make a run next year. But at the same time, I wouldn't be a buyer because what do we have to give away? Our prospect pool is completely depleted right now. And the few guys that we do have there, we want them to be a part of our future as opposed to shipping them off for something that's not guaranteed to work out. So I'm just standing pat if I'm the Phils. I'm not selling, I'm not buying, just sticking with what we have for right now.
I kind of feel like they're going to go in with a hybrid approach here. I feel like have conversations about Maikel Franco, have conversations about Cesar Hernandez, have conversations about Vince Velasquez, Nick Pivetta, and Zach Eflin. Obviously, it doesn't matter. Like, you sit there and first of all, someone will want either Eflin or Pivetta. The Velasquez experiment, I don't think that you're going to get very much anywhere for him outside of just clearing a problem from Philadelphia.
You'd have to pay someone to take Velasquez off your hands.
Maybe so.
Same with Franco. I could see them having a little bit of interest in Cesar Hernandez.
I just sit there and I take a look at this team, and I in my head, I sit there and say, if they move on from Cesar Hernandez and they just trust Adam Hazley in center field, they say, fuck it, we're going to roll with it. Put Adam Hazley in center. Let Kingery, for once, play his natural position at second base, where he was basically a Gold Glove second baseman. He is just incredibly, incredibly talented there. Let that happen. Move Nick Williams. I am 100% of the mindset that I would like to keep Mickey Moniak. But if you're testing out Hazley this year and it seems to be working, to me, if you're going to move a prospect that's like one of your, we want to keep you prospects, he's the guy, Or, like I said, if they think that Moniak could potentially be up next season, which to me is unrealistic, but if they think that, maybe they move Hazley and they just leave Kingery out there. But I do think to some degree they're not going to go into the second half of this. Like, they can't. Glenn Tackle, someone's going to shoot him in the streets like Biggie. Like, that's what's going to happen if he goes out there and says, I feel good about our rotation. I think that and look, I'm not going to lie. They 100%. They're so streaky. We saw it last year. We saw it through parts of this year. They may all catch fire at the same time. They very well might just carry a hot streak into the fucking postseason. I don't know. I wouldn't bank on it.
I wouldn't put a single dollar on that.
Yeah, well, no smart betting person should. So let's talk if this has been like a therapy session, it's been like nothing but ranting, because this is not what this season was supposed to be. Like, this was supposed to be the positive show. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be me gloating to everyone else who sits there and never believes in the Philadelphia Phillies for any damn thing.
This was supposed to be us making fun of Nasty and taunting her that the Phillies are like 10 games ahead of the Braves, and now we are like 7.5 behind them or whatever it is.
6.5.
6.5.
We would have never had to have met her. You understand that?
Hey, I'm cool with meeting her, though.
Yeah, I know you are. You're welcome. One day, I will be able to change my fantasy football name to the finally succeeded wingman, as opposed to the failed wingman. One day. But
speaking of that, I'm going to schedule you to play out like 5 times this year.
Yeah, you're an asshole. Not a big fantasy sports guy. I finally won my championship, and I'm good now. Like, I'm all right.
I still have to go out and buy a trophy for that, by the way.
I forgot that we were going to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to do it sometime when I remember to do
it. Sounds good. I'm designing the fucking trophy. Since I won it, I'm designing it. I 100% agree that we should have some sort of embarrassing ornament of object of some sort.
Yeah, the winner every year has to put a new ornament on it.
So yeah, something. To sit there and shed some light to the league, which was such a fantastic TV show. But anyway, we sat here, we talked about a bunch of different negative things, and I got to lift myself up just a little bit to get through the rest of this podcast. Some positives for you throughout the season. Haven't been many, but
Scott
Kingery for me is certainly one. My favorite, honestly, if I'm being like completely open right now, I am more happy that Scott Kingery is performing well, specifically for the fact that I can sit here and rub this in L's face, because he's never been wrong about anything in his life, and he's the most stubborn human on the planet. Scott Kingery could win 15 MVPs in a row, and the Phillies could win 15 World Series in a row, completely at the hands of Scott Kingery. And this guy he will never acknowledge. You know that he changes the subject every time in our group message, or suddenly has nothing to say in the group message whatsoever if Scott Kingery's name gets mentioned. Never. That, to me, brings me more joy than his actual success on the baseball field.
It's not that he's never wrong. It's just that when he is, he doesn't acknowledge it.
It's true.
He's on pace to be super wrong about Michael Franco and Cesar Hernandez this year. Or not Cesar, Gene Segura leading the league in hits.
And Jake Arrieta.
And Arrieta, yes.
Yeah.
So he's like on pace for 3 losses there.
Mm-hmm. No, but
you won't hear about it from him, though.
No, he'll move the goalposts on some, and he'll completely ignore others. But like, that's the thing that brings me joy. Like, I sit there, it's funny. So if you sit there and text into the group chat, like, another Kingery bomb or whatever, and he completely doesn't acknowledge it and changes the topic, and I sit there and I show Stephanie my phone, and she's like, "What a jackass!" I'm like, that just makes me feel warm inside.
Wasn't it back in the Mets series when Kingery hit that first pitch of the game into the second deck in left field? I sent a text in the group chat, and LJ, like 5 minutes later, texted something about like NBA free agency or something like that.
Who knows, man? Who knows? But yeah, that to me, that's the biggest joy that I could possibly have from this whole Kingery situation. But yeah, in a season full of a lot of underperformance and some just underwhelming stats and storylines to go around, Scott Kingery has been one of the few bright spots. I would say Aaron Nola finding his stuff again as the weather's warmed.
He's been good of late, I should say. Yeah, he's been very good. Took a no-hitter into the 6th inning before that kid ruined it.
Yeah, that kid's a jackass.
Yeah. Neris has been a positive surprise this year, I think. He's blown
agree.
a couple games, but by and large, he's been very good.
Yeah. You know, it's weird. Neris is strange to me. Like, in my head, nothing it's weird. You know how, like, when I've never done this before, but theoretically, if you were to meditate, you're supposed to sit there all Indian style, all goofy and whatnot, and be able to, like, literally remove your thoughts from your body and, like, be in, like, this weird headspace of just nothingness, right? Like, that's basically what meditation is, or at least that degree of meditation. I feel like that's what happens when Neris pitches for me. Like, I feel like nothing but anxiety fuels my entire body every time I see him in the bullpen, because there's no trust. But then he gets out there on the mound, and for whatever fucking reason, I'm like, yeah, we're winning this game. No problem. No doubt, Neris. I can't explain it. While he's sitting there warming up, throwing before he throws his first pitch, and he's staring in, and he looks like a deer in the headlights, just like, I don't know. I've experienced 2 very real, very opposite ends of the spectrum emotions whilst watching this man pitch, and I can't fucking explain it.
You see, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm feeling pretty confident in Neris until he allows that first base runner, and then I always feel like he's about to implode. But, you know, he's blown 2 games this year, I think, and he's had a few others that he's made interesting with, you know, loading the bases or something like that, and then finding his way out of it. But by and large, he's been able to go out there and, you know, a lot of 1, 2, 3 innings. Sometimes he'll let one guy get on, he'll finish it off. He's been really good about, you know, when he gets the save, making it look easy instead of making it, you know, a bases-loaded heart attack.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Bases empty, Neris versus a single base runner. I get that. Yeah, he's a weird follow, but I dig him.
Yeah, a single base runner is when he comes out to the next batter and gives up a 2-run homer to Todd Frazier. So, thank God we came back and won that game.
I hate Todd Frazier.
Everybody does.
What a punk, man. I don't know. Does he think he's good at baseball?
Apparently so. He must be riding pretty high after winning that home run derby 5 years ago.
I just don't think it's ever left, and the only reason he was fucking in it was because it was in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
That's it.
Exactly. And, you know, the home run total even is inflated because of the fact that he played in Cincinnati, and that's hitter's paradise out there. Yeah, he's not that good of a baseball player. He's got some good power, but he doesn't do anything else. He's not a good fielder. He doesn't hit for a high average. I don't get why teams are so interested in him.
Who the hell knows? He is garbage, though. Getting back to Aaron Nola, one of my favorite things right now about him is the fact that over his last 24 or 25 innings pitched, whatever it is, he's lowered his ERA over, I think, over 1 1/3 run, something like that. He went down from like 4.89 to like 3.7 something, I think.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's been great.
Yeah, that's been, and his last start was phenomenal, and good for Cap for leaving his ass out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, was it you that texted in the group chat? There's like, fuck it, just let him go 9. I can't remember.
I don't think that was me. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone put that in there.
Because that night I was at a 5th of July party. I was pretty drunk. I just texted out the home run.
That's funny. See, what are the positives I got? I consider Bryce's first half a positive. I know a lot of people don't, but I look big picture on Bryce Harper, and first of all, last year his first half was garbage, and we all know what he did the second half. When you take a look at being, the face of baseball, you've played your entire career, in Washington, and you come from that dog shit sports town and market to Philadelphia, one of the most, if not the most, difficult cities to play and perform in. $330 million at the time he signs the richest contract in baseball, further villainizing who Bryce Harper is to the rest of the baseball world. Coming into Philadelphia, new environment, new everything. There are so many circumstances there that it would not have surprised me if Bryce Harper was hitting 210 and wasn't drawing as many walks, if his strikeouts hadn't been cut down in the last month like they were, if the power, even to the minimal extent that it's been there so far, if it was there even lesser, like none of that would have shocked me. I do feel like he's about to have like a monstrous second half. Howard had a ridiculous, second half in 2008, and he had a crazy slow start. Still ended up with like 48 home runs that year.
Howard was notorious for slow starts. Every single year, he would start off hitting like 200 through the first 2 months of the season.
I feel like every Philly during that era, with the exception of Chase Utley, was that way.
Jim Thome, even before Howard, Jim Thome was the same way. He would start off hitting 200 in the first couple months. Yeah. And then he would heat up.
Yeah, white hot. He was fun.
So maybe it's these power hitting left-handed bats in Philadelphia that they heat up in the second half of the season. Even if I remember correctly, Bobby Abreu was kind of the same too. He would heat up as July and August would come around.
I guess I don't remember for sure when Bobby. He was just a consistent hitter. Like he was a good hitter.
Yeah, he was just afraid of walls.
He was a bitch. Yeah, I own that.
But yeah, I'd say Harper, for me, he's a wash. The first half, I can't really go that he had a good first half. I can't say that he had a bad first half. I will say this though, post-May Bryce Harper was good. That slump that he had in May that lasted up towards the end of the month was terrible.
Yeah,
where he was striking out like 3 times a game. He was swinging and missing at everything. He was missing pitches right down the middle. He was taking pitches that he should have swung at.
Yeah, for someone who has such insanely good plate vision and just understands what is and what is not a strike, he chases a lot on 3-2 counts. He works these counts, to 3-2 and 3-1 even, and suddenly it's like his approach is just gone. His understanding of the strike zone is just gone, and he becomes this guess hitter, and it's not something I would have ever expected from him. That being said, like you said, post May, June on, he's been a really, really good hitter.
He's been hitting close to 300 during that stretch, I believe.
He's hitting over 300 during that stretch. Yeah, over 300. He's cut his strikeouts down a lot. I think he was striking out 27.5 times or something, 27.5%. I think during this stretch of time, he's cut it down to 14.5 or 17.5. I don't remember what.
Either way, it's a double-digit, significant drop-off there.
For sure, and his power over the last couple weeks, he's got 4 or 5 home runs in the last 2 weeks, and again, that's a really small sample size, and he has the ability to start after the All-Star break and hit 4 or 5 home runs in 2 games. Like, that is the kind of power hitter that he is, obviously. But given where his season started, I'm completely comfortable with Bryce Harper's first half. Big picture. You take a look at how good he's been defensively after coming over as someone who was, I don't want to say a liability out in right field. He wasn't. Most of his negativity from defense comes from the fact that he had to play out of position in center field for parts of last year, And going into a contract year, you can't afford to get hurt. This year, he can afford to be his normal reckless self and take more severe routes to baseballs because he's made $330 million. He's good now. And we're seeing the benefits of that. He's not a guy that's taking nights off right now. He is a guy that's giving you 100% every night. The one thing I do wish that would, more so than anything, I love his aggressiveness on the bases. I know other people hate right now that he's been thrown out like 9 times on the base paths, or I think 12 times if you include caught stealings. I wish that there were, situationally, he was smarter. There is a time to be aggressive, and I do think that more often than not he's correct. But there are times where I sit there and I'm like, you got to be smart. Reese is, in the middle of a hot stretch, or JT is swinging a good contact bat, and you're going to score from second base no matter what with his speed. That's the type of thing that I need him to clean up. I don't need him to be less aggressive. I just need him to be smarter about the time as to when he is aggressive on the bases.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that he's made a few bonehead plays out there on the base paths. With that being said, though, you would rather see that from a player than see the lack of hustle that we've seen from Caesar and Gene at certain points this season. I'd rather see a guy bust his ass and get thrown out at third base on a ball that he should have stayed at second than see a guy, get thrown out at second or thrown out at first because they didn't hustle. I mean, if something's gonna happen like that, I'd rather see it be a result of hustle than be a result of lack of hustle.
Yeah, I agree.
And sticking to Bryce, I think that we could potentially see him in the second half of the season go back to the way that he was hitting the ball in the first 2 series. I think that we could see him, hitting more of those moonshot home runs, his 450, 460-foot home runs. Not going to say every single home run's going to be like that, obviously it's not, but I think that we could see a significant increase in the power output. I think that we could see him hit 20-plus home runs in the second half of the season. I think that the RBIs, he's been doing pretty well in the RBI category throughout the season.
He's on pace to have most RBI of his career.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I think that he could even exceed that in the second half of the season. I would not be surprised if he ends the 2019 season with his batting average up near 270.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed is the fact that he's a guy who doesn't watch film. He is his own hitting instructor. Like, Malley has nothing to fucking do with who and what he does.
Thank
God.
Because Malley would ruin him.
Malley ruins everybody, with the exception of apparently Scott Kingery. But for me, he's made adjustments where I haven't. Now, we didn't see him play every single day, obviously, while in Washington, but I never noticed the kind of severe stance changes and approach changes that I've noticed so far this season for Bryce. He's up taller. He is obviously, his power extends, pole to pole. But for the most part, when he's on, he's got a crazy launch angle and a ball that he wants to pull and turn on. That's basically who and what his power is, extending out to that right center gap. This year, we're starting to see there are a lot of line drive home runs right now going out, just scraping walls in left field, and he's just kind of using that brute strength that he has to get the ball over the fence. It wouldn't surprise me as this humidity continues to sit here and kind of just infiltrate what Citizens Bank Park is and what Philadelphia and this market or what this environment is, if those balls don't just start seeing just line drives that just keep fucking going all across the baseball field at this point. He's so strong, I would not doubt it, that even the smallest of adjustment to get more launch, that some of these balls are just going to, I think he's just going to end the year around 42, 43 home runs.
You're going even more than I am.
I am. I really think he's going to get that hot.
I wouldn't be surprised by it.
Mainly because I've never really seen or noticed him to have the kind of willingness to take the baseball the other way with that kind of power and authority. And this is a field that plays both these alleyways at Citizens Bank Park play for hitters, and he's a guy who's strong enough that line drives can get out by mistake.
Yeah, and left field at Citizens Bank Park is
kind
not
of on the
exactly
regular.
deep.
No.
It's not exactly deep. You can poke a line drive out there, but I mean, he went out there and he hit a line drive over the left center field wall down in Miami, which is one of the deepest left centers in all of baseball.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if he's doing that, if he's getting his home runs that way, then, the more the better. And I love when he does that, because I love when hitters can go to all fields like that. It just shows so much more versatility than having a guy who's strictly a pull hitter.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we mentioned we're a half game out of second place for who is currently held by the Nats, and
which, by the way, is also the first wild card.
What's that?
That's home field for the first the wild card game.
And then 6.5 out from Atlanta. Things have not gone as we could have expected for the Phillies this first half, and through the All-Star break. I feel like we probably assumed we were going to be similar to what like the Dodgers were and have 5-6 All-Star representatives for the Phillies. That's just what we anticipated, and it just has not been the case. But baseball is a long season. Philadelphia has notoriously been a second half team. It doesn't much matter who is on the roster. This is kind of what follows this particular team and organization. We talked a little bit about the fact that we both believe. You believe that Bryce's average is going to peak up another 20 points or so. You believe that he's going to 20 plus home runs. We both think that he's going to have more RBI than anything, or at any point in his career here in Philadelphia, all, again, assuming he stays healthy. Let's take a look at some other second half predictions and things that we think could either go even worse off than what we've been right now, as well as some things that we believe are going to kind of turn the corner, like our predictions right now for Bryce Harper. Let's just go shot for shot real quick.
I'm going to start off with the pitching rotation. I think Aaron Nola is going to continue to get better. I think that he could have his ERA sub-3 by the end of the season.
Holy shit.
But I think that the rest of the rotation is going to go completely into the shitter. So it's basically going to be a one-man show and Aaron Nola every fifth day just going out there and pitching lights out. And then whoever else we have on the mound is just going to be terrible. Maybe not terrible. We'll get some decent starts every once in a while. I think Arrieta's going to continue to get worse with this bone spur until they eventually shut him down for the season. I think that you're going to get the continued inconsistency from Pivetta and Eflin, and then what's going to happen with that fifth spot? Is it going to continue to be Velasquez? Is Eichhoff going to jump back in there at some point? There's going to be no consistency there. So I think that the 2 through 5 in that rotation is just going to continue to go downhill throughout the rest of the season. Unless they make a move, which I doubt is going to happen.
They're going to make a move. They may. There's no way in my brain that Clentac is dumb enough to sit there and say, let's continue to ride with what pisses everyone in this market off. So I've talked about this.
Does Clentac know what a pitcher is?
I don't think he knows what anything but numbers are, but I sit there and I'll get to that thought in a little bit, so that was something else I had. But the one thing I sit there and take away from that, what you just said, is the fact that you think that Aaron Nola is going to get sub-3 ERA in the second half.
Yes.
I fucking love it. I don't for a second see it happening, but I fucking love it.
I'm not going to say significantly sub-3. It could be in the 2.9s, somewhere around there. Which isn't a huge leap. What's he at right now? Like
3.6 something, 3.64, 3.74.
Not a significant leap of faith to say that.
I don't know. You're maintaining less than basically 2 runs an outing for the rest of the year with a 6 plus innings every night, which I'm not saying is out of the question for him, but
I think he did. He did it for the most part last year.
Last year was filthy. Last year was just disgusting. The one thing I think that works in his favor is obviously the fact that the weather is what the weather is here, and he is certainly a humidity type of pitcher.
Well, he's from Louisiana.
Yeah, swamp.
Yeah.
And then the rest of your rotation, I don't think that there's any way that Clentac doesn't address at least one spot in this rotation. It's tough because one spot's not going to make the biggest of difference. But there's just at this point, what is the fucking downside? Like, pair some intriguing low level prospects that have significant roadblocks in front of them. Take a look at some shortstops that we have, or middle infielders that we have, knowing that we have Bryson Stott and Luis Garcia in system, who are undoubtedly the top 2 middle infield prospects there. Like, at a certain point, we don't need some of the other guys who are low level guys. Maybe someone takes a flyer on them. You never know.
See, this is where I would want to play Adam Hazley at the major league level to see what he's all about, and then you can make a decision, like you said before, on Moniak, whether you want to keep him in the system or whether you're willing to part ways with him because you see a future with Hazley.
Yeah.
So that could be one way that they go about things.
Yeah, and again, I do think that this next 3-week stretch for the Phillies, I think, is really going to define what they're going to do for the remainder of the season in terms of their actual approach. I don't know that if they come out hot and they're winning games and this pitching rotation starts to click for a little bit, they're going to be more aggressive on the bye and they're going to try to ride that hot streak and do what they can do. But if these next two series, against the Nats and Dodgers go poorly, and then you see some poor stretches right after that, to me, bring Hazley up. Let's just get him up there and get him playing every single day. Let him hit atop the order, with Scott Kingery up there. Move Cesar. Let Kingery play his natural position. I am not of the opinion to burn a year immediately of Bohm and bring him up this year unless we're in contention. But if he rakes, at Double A and goes up and rakes more at Triple A, who, by the way, Bohm started at third base for the minor league All-Star game, which is cool.
The Futures.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that their approach with a lot of these guys is going to be dictated, a lot by what kind of stretch of baseball they can put together in this very, very immediate future. And I think the Phillies know that. Gabe Kapler knows that. The players know that. They understand that if they come out flat after this All-Star break against one team that's superior to them by and large, the Dodgers are just in a different class of everything. But they got to take care of business against the Nationals. They have got to take 2 out of 3. And I think the Phillies know that.
Yeah, I think that they need to come out and it's a 7-game homestand, correct? It's 4 against the Dodgers and then 3 against the Nationals. Mm-hmm. Got to win 5 out of 7.
Yeah,
I'd say
some way.
If you could, split with the Dodgers and then sweep the Nationals, or take 3 or 4 from the Dodgers and take 2 or 3 from the Nationals.
I think we're going to be lucky to get 1 win against LA. Personally,
I think that we could get 1 at least, maybe 2. The Phillies are a completely different team at home.
Yes, but the Dodgers are a completely different baseball team than anyone we're going to face this year.
They are. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think the Phillies stand a chance of winning a couple games against them.
I hope so.
But if they're going to lose a couple games during this homestand, obviously you'd much rather have it be against the Dodgers than against the Nationals, a team that we're chasing for the top wild card spot.
Yeah, for sure. What do you see the Braves doing in the second half? I'm not talking about trades or anything like that, but they're a really good team.
They are a very good team.
A really balanced offense. They can hit you with power. They can hit you with speed. They can hit you with contact. They're just a really, really smart baseball team offensively. Their pitching staff's been insane. I don't see this team falling off. I just see them, I don't know if they're gonna. I don't think they're World Series contender. I don't think they take anything against the Dodgers, but it wouldn't shock me if it's them in LA in the postseason, that NLCS.
It wouldn't shock me either. But you know what? The Braves have been white hot lately. I don't see them completely falling off, but I do see them kind of taking a little bit of a dip in the second half of the season. I think that they'll still play good baseball, but I don't think that they'll play at the same clip that they were playing, for the past 2 months when they overtook the Phillies. So I could see the Braves will probably maintain their division lead anywhere between 4 and 7 games throughout the remainder of the season, but I don't see them absolutely taking off and just running away with the division, before the middle of September.
I hope not. We've been starved here in Philadelphia of meaningful baseball in September, and that would be.
Well, it'll still be meaningful if we're in the wild card hunt.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, but again, this is, I don't know. It's tough. I sit there and I want to be fighting for the division. To me, I feel as though it's hands down the most important thing. So I hope that we can, cut it close and find some way to scrap together some wins. And, I really don't know. Like I said, I can't put my finger on the pulse of what this team is. It's just bizarre.
My hope for them is the first wildcard spot, because if you're playing that 1-game playoff, you want it to be at home. You want it to be in Philadelphia. You don't want to go down to D.C. or go out to Milwaukee or go to Colorado or someplace like that to play that wildcard game. Whoever you're playing against, you want it to be in Philadelphia. So at the very least, that's what they'd be. Obviously, they should be shooting to make a comeback and steal the division from Atlanta. But at the very least, try to get that top wild card spot.
Yeah, again, super important. So let's go to just some quick predictions now for the second half. Where do you see the Phillies ending up? Do you actually see them taking that first wild card spot?
I see them finishing second in the division. I don't know what the other teams outside the division, like I said, Colorado and Milwaukee and all those kind of teams. I don't know what they're going to do, but I do see the Phillies taking the second spot in the division, jumping the Nationals, and I see them getting a wild card spot. Whether it's the first or the second, I don't know, but a wild card spot.
I don't know if I have that same confidence. Like I a lot's going to depend on the next couple weeks. Is all I can say. It's before I can really get a handle on what I believe this team is going to do. I feel as though there is more than enough talent on this roster right now that they can make some legitimate noise to be a legitimate wild card contender, or even make a run back towards the Braves. Like I said, as bad as the pitching staff has been, they can get that hot. We've seen Eflin go 11 games in a row, or 11 of 13 starts or so, where he was a pretty dominant pitcher. We obviously Aaron Nola, and then this offense, I think, has the potential to average, 6.5, 7.5 runs a game. I genuinely believe that. So as the bullpen gets healthy, if one or two of the pieces on offense begin to click in the way that we believe them to, can you imagine a power surge at the same time of Harper Hoskins?
Oh my God, man. Orgasmic.
That's 7 runs a game right there, with these guys on base.
Yeah, and then you throw in JT. What if he gets hot at the same time? That's the most lethal 3-4-5 in baseball right there, if they're all hitting the ball well at the same time.
For sure, yeah. It's, LA, but LA and
I think
Houston.
If Bryce Harper's hitting the cover off the ball, if Reese is hitting the cover off the ball, and if JT's, hitting 300, they give LA a run for their money right there. That's just the 3-4-5. I'm not talking about the rest of the lineup.
Rest of the lineup,
just
sure.
the middle.
I don't know. I love the fact that you're as confident as you are. It makes me feel significantly better about this pod.
I wouldn't say that I'm confident. I like to look at the upside of things.
Yeah, I hear that. So I'm hoping for the same. I sit there and I look at how many holes we have, how many unknowns we have, how many underperforming players. If even one or two if one of our back end 4 guys in the rotation hit their stride, and we make one move for an additional competent MLB level starter, they could be a number 4 or 5. I don't care, but just someone that can keep us in baseball games. That's 3 arms, and then with the other 2, we just got to hope that we get more semi-okay starts than not. I think that's doable. If, like I said, if Reese and Bryce get hot at the same time, look out. If JT becomes the offensive catcher that we know he can be, look out. I don't know the likelihood that Scotty has the second. We've already seen him. Granted, the extra at bat tonight is the reason why his average is dropping. He still may get a hit or 2 a night, but it's different when you're getting 5 plate appearances versus 4. So we've obviously seen that go down a little bit now, but I don't know that you can count on him to be that great. But imagine if he is. Imagine if he's still 300 plus hitter with plus pop right now for a smaller guy. Think if Hazley comes up and has something to contribute. I think there's a lot of interest and intrigue to what this team could be right now.
There definitely is. I would say one thing in relation to Kingery, though. If he's going to continue posting the numbers they posted in the first half, he does need to cut down the strikeouts.
He's never going to cut down the strikeouts.
It's
an approach thing.
It is an approach thing, and he needs to maybe not completely alter his approach, but just, not strike out as often.
Here's the thing. So if you take a look at what really hurt him last year, it was forcing him to see pitches. It was forcing him to fit the philosophy that Malley and Kapler truly envisioned for their offense. They want to work pitchers to death. They want to work walks. It's boring as hell. And for a player like him, for a player like Segura even, these guys need to just go up there and say, hey, don't think about anything. Here's your bat. Just fucking swing if it's in the strike zone. I'm cool with it. Eventually, you can already tell this season from last, his plate coverage and plate discipline is much better.
Significantly better.
And I feel as though the more that sets in place, the less he will eventually strike out. He doesn't really seem like a weak contact type of guy. He is hitting. I think his exit velocity has gone up 7 miles per hour from last year, 7.5 miles per hour, somewhere in that range, from what his average exit velo was last year. So he's hitting the baseball hard. Obviously, he's got some lift to his ball this year. In a third of the at bats, he had 2 more home runs than he had all of last season. At one point, he had 10 home runs versus the 80 he had last year. He did that in 170 plate appearances versus 580 last year, 520, something ridiculous. So there's a lot to who and what goes into making Scott Kingery. And I feel like while he isn't going to draw walks, yes, he's going to strike out. It's basically what baseball is now. Like, I'm not saying we should all appreciate the strikeout. We shouldn't. But it's basically what baseball is now. You're getting a home run, you're getting a strikeout, or you're basically getting a walk. The rest of everything is kind of a minority in terms of play.
Yeah, it's a true outcomes kind of thing now with baseball. But I guess my thing with Scotty is just when you have 2 strikes on you, he's had a lot of 2-strike swing and misses. I mean, he doesn't get caught looking very often. Every time he strikes out, it's a swing and a miss.
Yeah.
So with 2 strikes, maybe just focus on making a little bit more contact as opposed to driving the ball out of the ballpark.
Yeah. I think for each, and this is across baseball with 2 strikes, I do believe that there should be situational philosophies. There are not very many guys out there like Anthony Rizzo or Joey Votto who are choking up and who are basically slap hitting to have full plate coverage and to just make contact. There are very few Freddie Freemans who can make contact seemingly every single time a pitch comes in. Like, that to me seems like a lost art. I am 100% okay with let these bats fly. Let's focus on some sort of launch and hit the ball out of the ballpark, if that is what baseball is. But come 2 strikes, you got to get back to your natural organic approach that you grew up with of take an inch off this bat right now, tighten up, shorten your swing, just make fucking contact.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're up there with nobody on base and you strike out, it's whatever, it's the same as any other out. But if you come up with a guy on second base, a guy on third base, less than 2 outs, you don't want to make that unproductive out. You want to hit the ball to the right side of the infield. You want to hit the ball to the outfield, see if you can drive in that run, get a sac fly, or get an infield grounder to bring home that guy from third base. Yeah, it's situational. Like I said, nobody on base, a strikeout's perfectly fine because it's the same as any other out. But with guys on base, you got to take a different approach with 2 strikes.
Yeah, like I said, situationally, I do think that there are some adjustments that baseball as a whole and the philosophy of baseball as a whole could improve upon to make the game more interesting for people who need it that way. But we've gone about an hour, and I feel like there's been no structure to this whatsoever. So
it's a rant session, man. There's
it basically is
structure.
So. All right, I'll ask you. Like I said, I rewrote my article 3 times over about my midway point, and no matter how many times I rewrote it, it felt even more and more negative. Despite the fact that I genuinely feel as though if a couple things break the Phillies' way in the second half that did not break their way in the first, we could be looking at a significantly better baseball team. But I just couldn't convey that. Do you think we did a decent enough job? Do you think I did a decent enough job saying that, like, I feel like there's still a shot?
You got your point across, yeah. I think you did.
Perfect. So we made the correct choice in sitting here and having a podcast as opposed to not.
Well, we made the correct choice also because we just needed to vent a little bit. Because the
true.
Phillies have been so damn frustrating, we need a place to go vent our frustrations that is productive, and that's what this podcast is. Fair
enough. One thing that I kind of appreciate that we didn't really dive into is talk on Kapler. And I'm not going to talk on it now.
It's another topic for another time.
Yeah, but just know that I appreciate the fact that you didn't bring it up. Because, I am still very, very pro-Kapler, and I feel like people are really not happy with me for that.
I'm not pro-Kapler, but he's the least of my worries with this team right now.
See, and I think that's a fair approach, or a fair thought. But let's go to a final thought here before we sign this one out. You have anything interesting or any thoughts that we haven't shared yet?
Well, at the beginning of the season, I projected that the Phillies will win 95 games. They're going to come up a little bit short of that. They're on pace for about 85, I think. I think realistically, I could peg them for about 88. So, like 88 and 74, somewhere around that ballpark is where I think the Phillies finished, and I think that's good enough for a wild card spot.
Okay. I am going to do something. I set this whole thing up, this whole podcast, just to do this. Just to make someone who actually got through this podcast. I think that second half Zach Eflin is going to pitch to an ERA right around 2.
Really?
A guy who I think sucks.
Yeah, you were the biggest Zach Eflin hater.
I'm not a Zach Eflin hater. I understand that you're going to get a bunch of quality starts, a bunch of just garbage starts, and then a bunch of things where the offense just makes it look less bad.
Fair enough.
But I think that with hot weather and the All-Star break right now, I think he found something this year, and he found something in his approach this year that made his soft contact more effective, that made his strikeout pitch more effective.
So wait. You think that he's going to pitch to an ERA of 2 in the second half, but when I said that Aaron Nola is going to pitch an ERA of like 1.9, you were calling me crazy.
Not 2.9. You think that he was going to get under 3.
Well, yeah, meaning he would pitch to a 1.9 ERA.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
That's a bold take right there. That's a very bold take.
It is. And it's,
I like bold takes, though.
So I was hanging on to that. I was setting it up the whole time because I sit there and I think like, shit, as depleted as our bullpen is and as hurt as everyone is, we need someone in this rotation that can consistently go 7+ innings. And that guy's going to be Zach Eflin. He's the only one who can pitch economically enough to consistently give us 7, 8, 9 innings while maintaining a pitch count that in today's world means fucking anything, which is so stupid. I hate pitch counts. That's another thing I could rant about forever. We should probably have a rant about baseball day.
We should.
We haven't done that in a while. Last year, we did commissioners for a day, and it was our most listened to episode at the time. I feel like we should do another one.
Did you know that, speaking of pitch counts, do you know that Tim Wakefield once threw like 212 pitches in a game?
That doesn't shock me.
All he did was throw knuckleballs.
Yeah, it's like batting practice. Who gives a shit? You're throwing half arm speed, whatever.
Apparently it wasn't batting practice, so the other team couldn't hit him. He went like 13 innings or something like that and gave up like 2 runs.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would watch that game. I would absolutely go back, find it in the archives, and watch that baseball game. All right. So my ridiculous bold take aside, we're just going to remind you guys again, if anyone has any interest in writing for AMYP, just shoot us. Theoretically, Twitter will be back up soon. I don't know if it's still down. I have no idea. But if it is back up, it's at AMY Podcast. You can also DM me. It's at Shayna_Mead. If you ever want to talk Flyers hockey or write Flyers hockey, you can DM Rob. It is at radio_Rob.
And yes, Twitter's back.
And Twitter's back. There you go. And then any of our other guys, if you want to talk Sixers basketball, I'm the guy to talk to there. And then Eagles football, you're going to want to message L, which is at LJ Harrell 54. So I think that's most of the people that you would have to talk to if you want to talk specific one sport responsibility. But like I said, DM the podcast account. Also subscribe to the website. You can always email us through that. It's www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. Be sure to rate and review this podcast. While our listens are spiking significantly, and we appreciate that, for the love of God, write anything in the review column.
Give us a damn review, please.
It's absurd.
We're begging you.
I'm not going to say I'm begging, but I'm just saying, like, you're shit listeners right now if you're not taking 5 seconds to write good show.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
You could literally give us a review while you're listening to the show.
It's true. I'm pretty sure that Apple Podcasts prompts you to give a review. It may not. I have no idea. But, which, I don't know. Do they? Because you listen on Spotify, right?
I'm a Spotify guy.
All right, that's fine. I just listen when I edit them. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Give us a review, a rating, and also do us a favor and steal anyone's phone who is near you and subscribe to us, and then run away, because you may not know the individual with which that you stole their phone.
It's probably better if you don't know them.
It is better if you don't know them. Screw it. That's just like an anonymous gift. That's like a pay it forward type of thing.
Exactly.
I've stolen your phone. They get the greatness
of Always Next to Your Podcast.
And then they get this, which is fantastic. All right, so we've rambled for over an hour now just on a Phillies segment here that is, well, we'll probably be one of the first to be deleted when we eclipse our hours because this is a mess. But fun enough. I enjoyed it. A little conversation based with me and Rob. So we will see you guys probably about a week. Yeah, a little less than a week. I think will be our next episode.
Ish.
Yeah, week-ish. For TJ's one of us. That'll be it for Rob. I am Shane of the Always Next Year podcast.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.